The candles flickered, casting dancing shadows across the white tablecloth. I stared at my husband Simon's face, searching for a hint of the man I'd married 15 years ago. His eyes, once warm and inviting, now held a cold, distant look that sent a chill down my spine. "Valerie," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I want a divorce." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. I gripped my wineglass tightly, willing my hand not to shake. "What?" I managed to choke out. Simon leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "You heard me. I can't do this anymore. We're just not compatible." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Not compatible? Simon, it's our anniversary. I thought we were celebrating our life together, not ending it." He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Val. I've been thinking about this for a while now. It's not fair to either of us to keep pretending." "Pretending?" My voice rose, drawing curious glances from nearby diners. I lowered it to a harsh whisper. "Is that what our marriage has been to you? Pretend?" Simon sighed, his eyes darting around the restaurant. "Look, can we not do this here? I thought it would be better to tell you somewhere public so you wouldn't make a scene." Anger flared within me, hot and sudden. "Make a scene? You dropped this bomb on me during our anniversary dinner, and you're worried about me making a scene?" "Val, please." I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "No, Simon. You don't get to Val, please me. Not now." As I stormed out of the restaurant, I could feel Simon's eyes on my back, along with the stares of the other patrons. The cool night air hit me like a slap, and I gulped it down, trying to clear my head. My phone buzzed in my purse. I pulled it out to see a text from my sister, Linda. "How's the big anniversary dinner going? Simon better be treating you right." I let out a bitter laugh. If Linda only knew. She'd probably swoop in with her designer handbag and credit cards ready to take me on a shopping spree to fix everything. That was Linda's solution to every problem, throw money at it until it went away. I was about to reply when Simon came rushing out of the restaurant. "Valerie, wait." I spun around to face him. "Wait for what, Simon? For you to explain how our entire marriage has been a lie?" He reached out to touch my arm, but I jerked away. "It hasn't all been a lie," he said softly. "We've had good times. It's just, I want more." "More?" I repeated, incredulous. "More than a loving wife? More than a comfortable home? What exactly is it that you want, Simon?" He hesitated, his eyes darting away from mine. In that moment, I saw something in his expression that made my blood run cold. It was a mixture of guilt and excitement. "I want a life that's bigger," he said finally. "More exciting, like the one your sister has." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. Linda's constant calls and texts to Simon, the way she'd been hanging around our house more often, the secretive smiles they shared when they thought I wasn't looking. "Oh my God," I breathed. "It's Linda, isn't it? You're leaving me for my sister." Simon's silence was all the confirmation I needed. I stumbled backward, feeling like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. "Valerie, Don't," I cut him off, holding up a hand. "Just don't." I turned and walked away, my heels clicking on the pavement. Behind me, I could hear Simon calling my name, but I didn't look back. My mind was reeling, trying to process the betrayal not just from my husband, but from my own sister. As I reached the corner, I paused and took a deep breath. The life I thought I knew had just crumbled around me. But standing there, alone in the night, I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. Something that would be entirely mine. I woke up the next morning with a pounding headache and a hollow feeling in my chest. For a blissful moment, I forgot about last night's disaster. Then reality came crashing back and I groaned, burying my face in the pillow. The doorbell rang, startling me. I stumbled out of bed, threw on a robe, and made my way downstairs. When I opened the door, I found Linda standing there, looking perfect as always in her designer outfit and immaculate makeup. "Oh, sweetie," she cooed, pushing past me into the house. "I heard about what happened. Are you okay?" I stared at her, dumbfounded. "You heard? From who, Simon?" Linda waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, you know how gossip travels. Now let's get you cleaned up. We're going shopping." "Shopping?" I repeated, my voice flat. "Linda, my marriage just imploded. I don't want to go shopping." She tsked, examining my face critically. "That's exactly why you need to go shopping, Val. Nothing cures a broken heart like a new wardrobe." I was about to argue when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Simon. "We need to talk. Can I come over?" Linda peered over my shoulder. "Is that Simon? Tell him to come. I'll mediate." "Mediate?" I sputtered. "Linda, this isn't but she was already typing a response. Before I could stop her, she hit send. There, she said, handing me back my phone. He'll be here in an hour. Now, let's get you presentable. An hour later, I was sitting in my living room feeling like a puppet in Linda's hands. She'd insisted on doing my hair and makeup, and I was wearing one of her designer dresses that she'd forgotten in her car. When Simon walked in, his eyes widened. Val, he breathed, you look different. I shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. Linda's idea, I muttered. Simon nodded, his eyes darting between Linda and me. Can we talk privately? Linda stood up, smoothing her skirt. Of course, I'll just be in the kitchen making some coffee. As soon as she was out of earshot, Simon leaned forward. Val, I'm sorry about last night. I shouldn't have sprung that on you like that. I laughed bitterly. You think? Simon, you asked for a divorce on our anniversary in public. He had the grace to look ashamed. I know, it was wrong. But Val, you have to understand. Our life, it's so small. Don't you want more? More what? I asked, my voice rising. More debt? More stress? More keeping up with the Joneses? Simon's face hardened. More excitement. More passion. More life. Look at Linda. She's always traveling, always experiencing new things. Don't you want that? I felt like I'd been slapped. So that's it? You want to trade me in for a newer model? One that's more like my sister? Isn't it? I stood up, anger coursing through me. Well, let me tell you something, Simon. Linda's life isn't all glamour and excitement. It's smoke and mirrors. She's drowning in debt, always chasing the next big thrill. Is that really what you want? Simon's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Linda's successful. She's a fraud, I hissed. And if you're so desperate to be like her, then go ahead. Divorce me. Marry her. See how long it takes before reality comes crashing down. Just then, Linda waltzed back in, carrying a tray of coffee. Everything okay in here? She asked, her voice syrupy sweet. I turned to her, my eyes blazing. Why don't you tell Simon the truth, Linda? About your maxed-out credit cards, your second mortgage, the loans you can't pay back? Linda's face went pale. Valerie, I don't know what you're talking about. Save it. I snapped. I turned back to Simon, who was looking between us with growing horror. You want a divorce? Fine. But don't come crawling back when you realize the grass isn't greener on the other side. I stormed out of the room, leaving Simon and Linda staring after me in shocked silence. As I slammed the bedroom door behind me, I felt a strange of anger and exhilaration. For the first time in years, I'd stood up for myself, and it felt good. I was folding laundry when Simon burst through the front door, his eyes wild with excitement. Val, you won't believe what I just saw. I sighed, bracing myself. What is it, Simon? He grabbed my hands, pulling me towards the window. Look, that new high-rise they've been building. It's finished, and they're starting to sell units. I squinted at the gleaming tower in the distance. Okay, and? And? Simon laughed. And we should buy one. Can you imagine living up there? The views, the amenities, the prestige. I pulled my hands away, feeling a familiar knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. Simon, we can't afford that. You know our budget is tight as it is. His face fell, then hardened. There you go again, always focusing on what we can't do. Why can't you dream a little, Val? I'm not dreaming, I'm being realistic, I snapped. Someone has to be. Simon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, a small smile playing on his lips. It's Linda. She wants to know if we want to go see one of the model units with her. Of course it was Linda. Ever since our confrontation, she'd been trying to worm her way back into our lives, acting as if nothing had happened. You go, I said, turning back to my laundry. I have work to do. Simon hesitated. Come on, Val. It'll be fun. Just to look. I spun around, anger flaring. Just to look? Like how you were just looking at Linda. His face flushed. That's not fair. I told you nothing happened between us. Yet, I muttered. Simon's jaw clenched. You know what? I'm going, with or without you. As he stormed out, I felt a mix of relief and dread. Part of me wanted to run after him, to try and make him see reason. But another part, a growing part, was tired of always being the responsible one, the killjoy. Hours later, Simon returned, practically floating on air. Val, you should have seen it. The marble countertops, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the private terrace. I tried to tune him out, focusing on preparing dinner, but his words wormed their way into my brain, painting a picture of a life so different from our current one. And Linda says she knows the developer. She thinks she can get us a great deal. I froze. The knife I was using to chop vegetables clattering to the counter. What? Simon had the decency to look sheepish. Well, I may have put down a deposit, just to hold our place in line, you understand. You did what? I could hear my voice rising, but I couldn't stop it. Without talking to me first? I tried to talk to you, Simon shot back, but you wouldn't even come look. Because we can't afford it, I yelled. How much was this deposit? Simon mumbled something under his breath. What was that? He sighed. $20,000. The room spun. I gripped the counter to steady myself. 20, Simon, that's our entire savings. It's an investment in our future, he insisted. Linda says, I don't care what Linda says, I exploded. She's not the one who has to live with the consequences. Simon's face darkened. No, but at least she believes in me. In us, unlike you. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, tears pricking my eyes. If you think throwing away our security on some pipe dream means I don't believe in us, then maybe you don't know me at all. For a moment, we stood there, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. Then Simon grabbed his keys. Where are you going? I asked, my voice small. Out, he snapped. I need some air. As the door slammed behind him, I sank to the floor, my mind reeling. How had we gotten here? And more importantly, where were we headed? I glanced out the window at the looming high-rise, its lights twinkling like false promises in the gathering dusk. Somehow, I knew that building would be the making or breaking of us. And right now, it felt a lot more like breaking. The weeks following Simon's impulsive deposit on the high-rise apartment were a blur of arguments and icy silences. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office to avoid coming home to another confrontation. But I couldn't escape forever. One evening, I walked in to find Simon and Linda huddled over a stack of glossy brochures at our kitchen table. They jumped apart when they saw me, guilt written all over their faces. What's going on? I asked, my voice tight. Simon cleared his throat. Val, we need to talk about our future. I dropped my bag, bracing myself. Our future? Linda stood up, smoothing her designer dress. I'll leave you two alone, she said, but Simon caught her arm. No, stay. We're all family here. He turned to me, his eyes gleaming with an intensity that made me uneasy. Val, I've been thinking, we need to make some changes if we're going to afford this new lifestyle. I felt a chill run down my spine. What kind of changes? He pushed a paper across the table. I picked it up, my hands shaking. It was a loan application. You want to take out a second mortgage? I gasped. Simon, are you out of your mind? It's the only way we can afford the down payment, he insisted. Linda's helped me run the numbers. If we tighten our belts a little. A little? I interrupted, scanning the document. This would triple our monthly payments. Linda leaned forward, her voice soothing. Valerie, dear, sometimes you have to spend money to make money. This apartment is an investment in your future. I rounded on her. Our future, Linda. Not yours. Why are you even involved in this? Simon stood up abruptly. Because she understands what it takes to get ahead in life. Unlike you. The words hit me like a slap. I stumbled back, tears pricking my eyes. Is that what you think? That I'm holding you back? Val, that's not what I meant. But I was already moving, grabbing my bag and heading for the door. I needed air, space to think. I walked for hours, my mind racing. When had our simple, comfortable life become not enough for Simon? And how had I not seen it coming? My phone buzzed incessantly, messages from Simon, from Linda. I ignored them all. As night fell, I found myself standing in front of the gleaming high-rise that had caused all this trouble. I stared up at its glittering windows, each one representing a life so different from my own. A text from Simon broke through my reverie. If you're not on board with this, maybe we need to rethink our whole relationship. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. This wasn't just about an apartment anymore. This was about the very foundation of our marriage. I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. It was time to make a decision. I could give in, sign the loan papers, and watch as we spiraled into debt chasing Simon's dreams of grandeur. Or I could stand my ground, risking my marriage but preserving my self-respect and financial stability. As I turned to head home, I caught my reflection in the high-rise's gleaming doors. The woman staring back at me looked tired, but there was a strength in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years. I knew what I had to do. It wouldn't be easy, but nothing worth fighting for ever is. With trembling fingers, I typed out a response to Simon. We need to talk. I'm coming home now and I'm bringing divorce papers. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. As I walked away from the high-rise, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Whatever happened next, I knew I was finally choosing myself. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in months I felt a glimmer of hope. It was time to reclaim my life, even if it meant leaving behind the man I thought I'd spend forever with. I paced the living room, my nerves frayed to breaking point. It was well past midnight, and Simon still wasn't home. My phone lay silent on the coffee table, mocking me with its lack of messages or calls. Just as I was about to call him for the 100th time, I heard the unmistakable sound of Simon's car pulling into the driveway. But the laughter that followed, high-pitched and feminine, made my blood run cold. The front door burst open, and Simon stumbled in arm with Linda. Both were clearly drunk, their faces flushed and clothes disheveled. "Val?" Simon slurred, his eyes widening as he spotted me. "What are you still doing up?" I crossed my arms, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Waiting for my husband to come home, though I see he brought company." Linda giggled, leaning heavily on Simon. "Oh, don't be such a stick in the mud, sis. We were just having a little fun." "Fun?" I echoed, my voice hollow. "Is that what you call this?" Simon disentangled himself from Linda, stumbling towards me. "Val, baby, it's not what it looks like." "Then what is it, Simon?" I snapped, backing away from his outstretched hand. "Because it looks like you've been out drinking with my sister while I've been sitting here worried sick." Linda flopped onto the couch, kicking off her heels. "Oh, lighten up, Valerie. Simon was just telling me all about your little disagreement." I froze, looking between them. "What?" Simon at least had the decency to look ashamed. "I needed someone to talk to, Val. You've been so distant lately. So you went to her?" I gestured wildly at Linda, who was now rifling through her purse. "Of all people? At least she listens to me," Simon shouted, his drunken state amplifying his emotions. "She understands my dreams, my ambitions. Unlike you, always trying to hold me back." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, tears pricking my eyes. "Is that really what you think of me?" Linda pulled out a folded document from her purse, waving it in the air. "Speaking of dreams and ambitions, I brought a little something that might help you two sort things out." With growing horror, I realized what she was holding. "Are those divorce papers?" Simon's eyes widened, darting between Linda and me. I didn't ask for those." Linda shrugged, a sly smile playing on her lips. "Consider it a preemptive measure. You two clearly have some issues to work out." I felt like I was drowning, the room spinning around me. "Get out," I whispered. "What was that, dear?" Linda asked, cupping her ear mockingly. "I said get out," I screamed, my composure finally shattering. "Both of you." Simon stepped towards me, his face a mask of confusion and hurt. "Val, please, let's talk about this." "There's nothing left to talk about," I said, my voice breaking. "You've made your choice, Simon. You chose her lifestyle, her dreams. Not me. Not us." Linda stood up, swaying slightly. "Well, this has been fun, but I think I'll call a cab. Simon, darling, are you coming?" I watched, my heart breaking, as Simon hesitated. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd married. Kind, loving, content with our simple life. But then his eyes hardened, and he turned to Linda. "Yeah, I'm coming." As they stumbled out the door, I collapsed onto the couch, my body racked with sobs. The divorce papers lay on the coffee table, a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. With shaking hands, I picked up the document. I could tear it up, pretend this night never happened. Or I could sign it, ending years of love and shared dreams with a single stroke of a pen. As the first light of dawn crept through the windows, I made my decision. I reached for a pen, my hands steady despite the tears blurring my vision. It was time to choose myself, even if it meant losing everything I thought I wanted. I signed the papers, my name a final punctuation mark on this chapter of my life. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I was done living in Simon and Linda's shadow. It was time to step into the light and find my own path. The moving truck rumbled away, leaving me alone in my new apartment. It was small, nothing like the spacious house I'd shared with Simon, but it was mine. I sat on a box labeled kitchen, surveying the stacks of cardboard surrounding me, each one a piece of my old life. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. "Hope you're settling in, sis. Simon and I are hosting a housewarming party next week. You should come." I laughed bitterly, deleting the message without replying. The audacity of that woman never ceased to amaze me. Weeks passed in a blur of unpacking and adjusting to my new reality. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects to keep my mind occupied, but I couldn't escape the constant reminders of Simon and Linda's new life together. One evening, as I was walking home from the grocery store, I saw them. They were stepping out of a sleek sports car in front of the high-rise, laughing and wrapped up in each other. Simon was wearing a suit I'd never seen before, and Linda, Linda was practically dripping in diamonds. I ducked behind a tree, my heart pounding. They looked so happy, so carefree. For a moment, doubt crept in. Had I made a mistake? Should I have tried harder to be what Simon wanted? But then I saw it. As Linda turned to enter the building, I caught a glimpse of her face. Behind the makeup and the smile, there was a tightness around her eyes, a tension in her jaw. Something wasn't right. Curiosity got the better of me. Over the next few weeks, I found myself watching them from afar. I saw the lavish parties they threw, the expensive restaurants they frequented, but I also saw the arguments, the hushed conversations in corners, the way Simon's smile never quite reached his eyes anymore. One day, I ran into my old neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, at the supermarket. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Valerie, oh, it's so good to see you, dear. How are you holding up?" I forced a smile. "I'm doing okay, Mrs. Johnson. How are things in the old neighborhood?" She leaned in conspiratorially. "Well, I shouldn't gossip, but that sister of yours and Simon, they're not doing so well." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "There've been some men coming around looking very official, and the arguments. My word, the whole street can hear them shouting at all hours." I thanked Mrs. Johnson and hurried home, my mind racing. What had Simon and Linda gotten themselves into? That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, haunted by memories of my life with Simon and worries about what might be happening to him now. Around midnight, my phone rang. Simon's name flashed on the screen. With shaking hands, I answered. "Simon?" "Val." His voice was ragged, desperate. "I need your help. We're in trouble. Big trouble." I sat up, fully awake now. "What kind of trouble?" "It's Linda," he said, his voice breaking. She's been lying about everything, her job, her money, all of it. We're drowning in debt, Val. The bank's threatening to foreclose on the apartment. I don't know what to do." Part of me wanted to hang up, to tell him this wasn't my problem anymore. But another part, the part that still cared despite everything, couldn't turn away. "Where are you?" I asked, already reaching for my keys. "At the high-rise." "Please, Val. I know I don't deserve it, but please help me." As I drove through the dark, silent streets, my mind was in turmoil. Was I making a huge mistake? Or was this a chance to finally close this chapter of my life for good? I pulled up in front of the gleaming tower, its lights now seeming more ominous than impressive. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car and walked towards the entrance, not knowing what awaited me inside, but knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt endless. When the doors finally opened, I stepped into a scene of chaos. The once immaculate apartment was strewn with papers, empty bottles, and discarded shopping bags. Simon sat hunched on the sofa, his head in his hands. "Val," he croaked, looking up. "You came." I took in his disheveled appearance, the dark circles under his eyes. "What's going on, Simon?" He gestured helplessly at the mess around him. "It's all falling apart. Linda. She's been lying about everything. Her job, her money, all of it." A bitter laugh escaped me. "I tried to tell you." "I know," he interrupted, his voice breaking. "I should have listened. God, I've been such a fool." Just then, the front door burst open. Linda stumbled in, her designer dress askew, reeking of alcohol. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Well, well," she slurred. "Look who's come crawling back." I stood my ground. "I'm here because Simon called me." "What have you done, Linda?" She waved her hand dismissively, nearly losing her balance. "Nothing that concerns you, little sister. This is between me and my husband." "Ex-husband," I corrected sharply. Simon stood up, his face a mask of anguish. "Linda, please, we need to tell her the truth." Linda's facade cracked, fear flashing in her eyes. "Simon, don't." But he was already pulling out a stack of papers from a drawer. "Val, we're in trouble. Serious trouble. She's been embezzling from her company for years, using the money to fund this lifestyle." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What?" Linda lunged for the papers, but Simon held them out of reach. "It's over, Linda. I can't keep living this lie." She rounded on me, her eyes wild. "This is your fault. You've poisoned him against me." "I didn't do anything," I said, backing away. "You did this to yourself." Linda grabbed a nearby vase, hurling it at the wall. It shattered, the sound echoing through the apartment. "Get out," she screamed. "Both of you. Get out." Simon grabbed my arm, pulling me towards the door. "We need to go. Now." As we rushed to the elevator, I could hear Linda's sobs and the sound of more things breaking. My heart was pounding, my mind reeling from the revelations. In the lobby, Simon turned to me, his eyes pleading. "Val, I'm so sorry for everything. I was blind, stupid. Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at him, this man I had loved for so long. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to say it was all okay. but I knew it wasn't. It could never be okay again. Simon, I said softly, I can't do this. Your problems with Linda, the embezzlement, it's not my responsibility anymore. His face crumpled. But Val, I love you. I realize that now. We can start over, make things right. I held up a hand, stopping him. No, Simon, we can't. Too much has happened. I've changed. I'm not the same woman who would have dropped everything to fix your mistakes. What are you saying? He whispered. I took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. I'm saying goodbye, Simon, for good this time. As I walked out of the building, I could hear Simon calling my name, but I didn't look back. The cool night air hit my face, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. My phone buzzed, a message from my boss about a potential promotion. I smiled, realizing that while one chapter of my life was ending, another was just beginning. I hailed a cab, giving the driver my address. As we pulled away from the high-rise, I watched it shrink in the rearview mirror. The glittering facade now seemed hollow, a perfect metaphor for the life I'd left behind. I was done living in Simon and Linda's shadow. It was time to step into the light and find my own path. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I was ready to face it on my own terms. 6 months after that fateful night at the high-rise, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my new blazer. Today was my first day as the newly promoted head of marketing at my firm. The woman staring back at me looked confident, strong, and most importantly, happy. My phone buzzed with a news alert. I nearly dropped it when I saw the headline, Local Businesswoman Arrested for Embezzlement, Ex-Husband Implicated. My hands shaking, I opened the article. There, in stark black and white, were Linda and Simon's mugshots. The story detailed how Linda's years of financial fraud had finally caught up with her and how Simon had become an unwitting accomplice in her schemes. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy for Simon, but then I remembered his cruel words, his disdain for our simple life, his betrayal. The sympathy faded, replaced by a sense of vindication. As I drove to work, my mind wandered to the last few months. After walking away from Simon that night, I'd thrown myself into my career and personal growth. I'd taken up yoga, joined a book club, even started painting again. Something I'd given up years ago to accommodate Simon's social calendar. My new apartment, once feeling small and empty, now felt like a sanctuary. Each piece of furniture, each decoration, was a reflection of me, not Simon's tastes, not Linda's extravagant style, just mine. At the office, my colleagues greeted me with warm congratulations. As I settled into my new corner office, my assistant poked her head in. Miss Thompson, there's a call for you on line 1. It's your ex-husband. I froze, my hand hovering over the phone. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to continue with my day as if Simon didn't exist. But another part, the stronger part, knew I needed this closure. I picked up the receiver. Hello, Simon. Val. His voice was rough, defeated. I don't know why I'm calling. I needed to hear your voice. I closed my eyes, steadying myself. I saw the news, Simon. I'm sorry things turned out this way. He let out a bitter laugh. Sorry? Don't be. I did this to myself. I threw away the best thing in my life, chasing some ridiculous dream. Simon? No, let me finish, he interrupted. I was a fool, Val. I had everything, a loving wife, a comfortable life, real happiness, and I threw it all away for what? Fancy cars and empty promises? I listened silently, feeling a mix of emotions wash over me, sadness, anger, and finally, a sense of peace. I know it's too late, Simon continued, his voice breaking. But I needed you to know that I realize now what I lost. You were always the best part of me, Val. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I took a deep breath. Thank you for saying that, Simon. I hope you find peace, I really do. But you're right, it is too late. I've moved on, and I'm happier now than I've been in years. There was a long pause. I'm glad, he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. You deserve all the happiness in the world, Val. Goodbye. As I hung up the phone, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The last threads tying me to my old life had finally been cut. I walked to the window of my new office, looking out over the city. The high rise where Simon and Linda had lived their ill-fated dream was visible in the distance. But it no longer held any power over me. My assistant knocked on the door. Miss Thompson, the team is ready for your first meeting. I smiled, turning away from the window. Thank you, Sarah. I'll be right there. As I gathered my notes and headed to the conference room, I felt a surge of excitement for the future. The path ahead was entirely my own, full of possibilities I had yet to discover. Simon's departure hadn't been the end of my story. It had been the beginning. And as I stepped into the meeting room, ready to lead my team into a new project. I knew that the best chapters of my life were still to come.